Hello, friends.
Hi.
We have a challenge for you today. And no kidding, it is a big one. This is this comes out of something that forest monks get to experience out here at Rewald University. And although there's many things to do out here, there's also a lot of time where they are just in a state of being, not in a state of doing. And when they encounter that, it can be life-changing. The reason being that when we're doing stuff all the time, we're pretty distracted, right?
Definitely. It's hard for us to pay attention to some of the underlying things in our life.
We could make a division between doing and being. Doing is what most of us are used to. We have goals, we reach for those goals, we're striving, we have our list of things to do today, so there's always this directed action. Also, these days, it also incorporates the constant distraction of media and TV and internet that just keeps our mind always doing stuff. What about being?
Right. Being, from what we've heard from our students, from what we've experienced ourselves, being allows us a breath. It's like the space in between notes in music. It allows a pause where we can look at our lives, where we can just feel. We don't even have to spend the time examining. We can simply be present. And in that space, often, not always, but often, great discoveries are made. Solutions to problems that we've been mulling over for the last few months, the last few years, our whole life, sometimes suddenly come into clear focus. And we've seen that time and time again with students here at Rewild U, that they say, oh my gosh, that time that I spent by myself, which was sometimes the hardest time.
Oh yeah.
Loneliness and fears and being with yourself.
Boredom.
Yeah.
We should put up a link to
Boredom.
the benefits of boredom video.
Yes. So those are challenges that sometimes in our modern culture we don't even realize that we need that space. Or we think, yeah, I need a break, but you just keep going. I mean, I do that all the time. I need to take a moment just to get out for a walk, but I have this, I have this. The list will be never ending. It's up to you to take a little time, and that is where our challenge comes in.
So here's how it works if you want to take it on. The idea is to take an entire day, to set it aside, and to not engage in any doing. So obviously at first that involves no texts, no emails, don't turn on the computer, no television shows, no technology essentially. Kind of trying to recreate what the forest monks get to experience out here. If you can, spending this time in nature. If that's not available to you, spending it in a peaceful environment, your house, or any place you can find that at least doesn't have a whole bunch of distractions around it.
So what about things like reading? I mean, gosh, I could use some time for reading, or maybe a art project, or some gardening. What about those kinds of...
So those things are kind of on the border, but for most of us, really trying to not even do those sorts of things. I can get sucked into a novel, or even if it's just reading, nonfiction, I'm trying to learn something. I can spend a whole day kind of distracting myself with that learning. So it's taking out all these things that, oh, here's what I could fill the time with. Goals, working towards anything in particular, sweeping off the deck, doing that, chicken coop project, whatever it's going to be. None of that stuff. Nothing productive. Just trying to be.
Wow.
It's like sitting on a rock.
So what might we encounter when we do that? I mean, obviously you mentioned boredom.
So what's going to happen usually for a lot of us, we're going to find these places of stillness. So that as I was mentioned, that might be sitting on a rock and spending a few hours just listening to the birds. It might be walking slowly around your home and observing it like you're seeing it for the first time. It might be a long, long walk through the woods. Whatever it is, this is almost like a doorway. Again, we can go our whole lives, really, in that state of doing and distraction, and never see that there's another world of beingness waiting right beyond that door. But because our culture is so designed to give us that constant distraction, to constantly fill our time, we may never experience what's beyond that door. And we can't promise that one day is going to show you what's beyond that door and open up all kinds of new things in your life, but it may give you a glimpse of what is waiting just beyond there. And I think that's what we see often with forest monks here, is you encounter boredom, you encounter the mental pain of not having those distractions, but just on the other side of that pain, just on the other side of that challenge, they start to find some amazing things about themselves, about the world around them.
And I want to add, I feel that they experience as well sometimes insight into just what is needed in order to live a fulfilling life. And it might not always be everything that we think we need. We may not need all the stimulation. We may not need all that. In fact, sometimes what we may need are those days of doing nothing.
It's almost like going on a really good diet, and then you realize just what, when you eat that junk food again, you realize just what that does to your body. It does not feel good. And so this puts contrast for some of us for the first time in our life, contrast to that doingness, to that distraction. And we might find, like you're saying, that a lot of that distraction that we thought is really important to fill our days with, maybe it's not holding quite the juiciness and the wonderfulness and importance that we thought it did.
So I want to say, try it. One day of doing nothing. Prepare yourself for it. Let people know so that you're not having to, oh, well, I had to text so-and-so because they didn't realize. Set yourself up for it. Make some meals ahead of time so that you don't necessarily have to suddenly distract yourself with an amazing meal. Just make it simple so that you can put yourself into some of that uncomfortableness and realize if you do feel the boredom, oh my gosh, how long is this going to be? Put away your watch. Put away the clocks. Don't look at them. And notice what happens to time and the sense of your interaction with the world when you don't have timepieces and you don't have things telling you where you should be or what you should be doing. Realize when you get to those places, that hard place, you are doing exactly what you need to be doing. You're doing some mental push-ups. You're strengthening yourself and you're quieting yourself, which is such a gift.
So this is a real life challenge. I realize, it's going to be difficult just to set aside a day because your mind's going to say you can't afford to do that. And there's going to be mental pain during that day. But because this is an official challenge, in the comments, if you take this challenge on, tell us what happened. Tell us about your experience. Better yet, if you have a YouTube channel, make a video and
Share.
a response video and post a link in the comments, and then share personally with people what you experienced. What was this like? Did you make it through the day? Did you only make it 10 minutes?
What was hardest for you not to engage in? It might be something you least expect. And I would be very curious to find what happened the next day when you went back into everything again. What did you notice?
Yeah. So, take this challenge on if you feel like you're up to it, and please share with us in the comments your experiences.